All right, good morning, folks. We're going to do some artwork today. Give me a minute here to check my signal, make sure everything's coming through okay. I'm going to go through a quick intro, and then we'll get to work. So we're creating artwork for upcoming adventure in Eberron. I need to turn my volume down. That looks pretty good there. I suspect it's going to be okay. I'll probably have to fidget with it at some point in the future. If you're already familiar with the stream, skip ahead a minute. I don't do all the time down stuff that other people do when they queue up their when they're doing their social media posts and stuff with the live link that they get. So I just muscle through it here and kind of speak my way through that process instead of having a time like a downtime timer. So I guess I'm just not savvy enough to do that yet, but maybe we'll get there someday. So just to keep you entertained in the meantime, my name is Phil Kearney. What is up? I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and I publish them online, and we are creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We're publishing it on the DMsGuild. I've been creating content on DMsGuild since 2018. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999. I've been a D&D enthusiast and DM since 1987. And I've been an Eberron enthusiast since, I want to say, around 2004. I became my home world of choice when I play D&D and pretty much any other game that I run. D&D and Cypher system have been the primary systems I've played like in the past 15 years. Let's see, check that box. But I've never, so I've been creating content on DMsGuild since 2018, but I've never actually created an adventure. So this is the first actual adventure that I've created that we'll be publishing for public use. So if you think stuff today is cool, like, subscribe. Hey, new subscribers, thanks a lot, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. We're at episode 413 of creating all the maps, tokens, icons, and page art for this adventure. It's a doozy. I don't expect you to go on the entire journey, but if you wanted to, here's the entire playlist of all 413 episodes, my Discord community, support me on Patreon, and here's a bunch of books that I've already created on DMsGuild. They all have free previews. If you think any of the stuff in there is cool and you want to use it in your campaign, bless you, and consider making a purchase to encourage similar behavior in the future. So let's misbehave. Here's the book cover we made around episode 40. Get that out of the way. We have a 16:9 format. So if you were to full screen this video right now and I align this so it fills the screen, that is a 16:9 space that your typical device, tablet, or large size screen is going to accommodate. It's a 12-point font. So if you did, regardless of what devices it is, chances are your good eyes can read anything that's going on here. If you turn it vertical, it won't happen here because of tech. But if you were to turn your phone or device vertically, each one of these columns is also 16:9. I'm thrilled. That's how technology works. That these ratios actually work out. It's pretty freaking amazing. So the entire book is in this 3-column 16:9 format designed for use with digital. I don't do print. I can't see color, so I only work digitally because I can't trust what colors are going to be in print. If I start printing material like in a Kickstarter project in the next couple of years, it'll be black and white art. So I'm fighting with that inside of myself, what path I'm supposed to go on, because I revel in the fact that I figured out how to do color despite my limitations. But at the same time, people like physical products, so I can't do both. I have to choose one or the other, either a physical product that's in black and white, it's going to conform with the 8.5 by 11 or the 5 by 8 digest format that's going to be in black and white, or I'm going to stay digital and keep going into lush color and pimping out to the highest quality. The former would be quicker and printable, so it would look better for a potential Kickstarter, but I am blessed and thrilled that I'm capable of producing color even at all. So it's really hard to let that go. So I don't know what the proper path is, but we'll figure that out eventually, I suppose. So we're going to drop out this is illustrating the consequences of your team failing the adventure. An Ultraloth rises from a bar and creates a horde of undead that then rage across the Karnwood into Karnath Heartland, and just what are farmers going to do against that? Nothing. They're going to die. So the mob will grow in the eastern and southeastern region of Karnath, and it will flow back across, probably hit Bastion and Ader. Once Ader gets overtaken, then it's just the capital and the nation is gone. They could pour into Sire or the Mournland and potentially supercharge their troops to gain even more power through weird Yugoloth magic, and it could become a theme. If your team fails at the front end, it becomes a theme at the back end. A DM could run a one-shot trying to defeat the undead army that's rising, and have that be a prologue, like 8th or 9th level characters going in and just getting killed. One-shotting them literally in a TPK that was designed to set it up. So then you go back forward, and now you can play like a 3rd or 5th level campaign with this horde already a developing problem in the heartland of Karnwood, in Karnath. And that would be a fun theme for a campaign as well. So I don't know why, but I keep gravitating to Karn. So I don't know what's up with that. There's so much fun. The last campaign I ran in Eberron was a time travel campaign in Undead. But other than that, it's been heavy Karnwood, like heavy Karnath activity for years. So let's see where we're at. We've got these undead up front here that we've been working on. Looks like you are our next target. We're gonna work on you, my dude. Hey, Fox, how you doing? It's a holiday here for Phil. I have the day off. It actually feels a little warm in here, so I'm gonna open the door. Get some airflow going in here for me. My overhead light wasn't working all weekend. I'd pull the chain on the overhead cord, and it would just flicker and then stop. And it did it all through the weekend and last night. And for whatever reason, when I woke up this morning and turned it on, it works just fine. So I think there's pixies in my house, and I think they like playing with me. So I love that. I love you, pixies. Thanks for being in my life. You know, in case they are here and they're easily offended. So we're working on art here. Let's make this undead clean. I'm going to blip, 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 get rid of the background. I've got a few hours I can spend this morning here. So it is a holiday. I've got some at-home stuff I want to do midday, but otherwise, it looks like my schedule is going to be like, we'll do this for a few hours, and then I think by 1 o'clock Seattle time, it's almost 7 here in Seattle now, so I'm going to play for probably 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, and then we'll see what my endurance is like. And so we'll put in some hours here, getting some Undead made, and then we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll work on the Bastion campaign book. We'll do that probably from 1 o'clock till I run out of juice. So it might be 2 hours, it might be 6. I honestly have no idea. It's been a while since I've ran a really long stream. And I don't know if it's just like riding a bike and I'll just catch it, or if it's like muscle memory and I need to build it up, or muscle endurance. It's either muscle memory like a bike, or it's endurance like working out. And we'll see which way I fall. So, but we'll kick at this for as long as we can. So, a moment of silence and reflection. All right, so we do a comic book style, in that we make the line art, and once we're happy with the line art, then we drop in color underneath the line, and then we add highlights and shadow and detail to the color. Then we merge the whole thing together, and we blend the line art into the color, so it looks less comic booky. There we go. I like that. That looks pretty good. Looking good, my dude. The detail here is so small. It's like this is a very. It's the problems I have. Like, so this is 10 inches tall. So like this is like an inch. And but I still kill myself over the detail, because honestly, I started making books in the first place because I couldn't get paid what I wanted for the level of art that I wanted to produce for books. It wasn't practical, you know, to pay me for 20 hours for an illustration that I'm doing. So I had to, I eventually got out of doing freelance work for role-playing games, but I loved it. It was a triumph for me to be able to create a quality of art that professionals were willing to pay to have. So big feather there for the Phil. But it wasn't practical for me to sustain it in a global society, you know, in a global economy, because when I really started getting decent enough to get paid, that's the same time that broadband and print on demand became available. The print on demand in the D20s, in the early 2000s, is what opened up so many new role-playing game publishers and indie producers. It created a fast market for illustrators like myself to be able to offer fantasy illustration for these books. And initially it was all black and white because color was too expensive for indies to produce. So my own personal limitations was miraculously a non-issue. So I was getting good gigs. I was proud of it. But once color became easy and affordable for indie producers, about the same time broadband internet became available to most society. Like Singapore, for instance, had a huge art market. And once they got broadband, they were getting paid American prices in an economy that had not reached American scale. So they were able to make, you know, if you could make like $50 for a quarter-page illustration in 2002, that's good eats. If you only need, you know, $1,800 a month to feed an entire family. It's like, holy crap, these people in these other countries were able to do what I had dreamed that I could do. And while I'm happy for them, it left me in a lurch. So I had to abandon that. And but I missed it. And so it was either, you know, kill myself over pennies or figure something out. And so I got into character art commission for a little while, and for me to get I'd get like $300 for an illustration in like 2006. That's pretty damn good money. But that also started to globalize, and the rates locked and started to actually drop because of the flood of supply in the market. So that also became a fail state for me, and so I dropped out of the freelance scene for a while and just focused on playing D&D. And it was 5th edition that got me into creating books. Prior to 5e, see, here's the irony. Wizards produced so little books in 5e that you could absorb and then contemplate the content that they were producing. Prior to 5e, the tempo of book production that TSR and Wizards had sustained as their, you know, selling books was the only way they made money, really. I mean, there's miniatures and side stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But the bulk of it was role-playing games. You needed more books to keep up sales. And that was the work model for every edition prior to 5e. 5e, Hasbro's like, we can't afford to do this. Less books now, please. So they slowed down book production, which gave us as a collective enough time to absorb all the information that was coming out of 5e books and heavily critique them. I never considered, let's take that back. I did not once consider homebrew content until 3E stopped production. I didn't immediately jump on the bandwagon of Pathfinder because I like the D&D IP, but as soon as Wizards stopped making those books, I immediately started turning to what kind of a mana system could we create for like alternate magic system mana resources for the Book of Nine Swords. Which is ironic because we're doing the Martial Powers book right now, Fox. Fox is playtesting in the Martial Powers campaign right now to playtest those mechanics. But that was literally the first homebrew I had ever created, was taking the Book of Nine Swords and trying to make all of those systems use the same spell point system that Psionics had been using in 3E. I wanted to convert those over to a universal system. And it wasn't until Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica came out in 5E that I realized that the time I had invested doing that set me up to be able to create the color mana spell point variant rules that are on the DMsGuild, to create a color mana system to replace the Vancian magic. So a lot of the stuff that I produce here now has been kind of crawling around in my heart forever. And it's not until now that I have enough of a skill base to actually be able to produce these things and the endurance to be able to emotionally sustain myself through these huge projects that take forever to produce that I'm capable of doing it on my own. So there's been a really elegant path of production for me to be able to get to this point. But when 3E stopped making content, that's when I started, or me in particular, everyone had always critiqued 3E content and created their own options. But from my perspective and everyone at our table, there's so many books being put out right now that if we just wait a few minutes, whatever ideas that this dude is coming up with, it's probably going to be in a book anyway, and we'll see how Wizards actually approaches it with actual rules. Let's just be patient. And once they officially stop making books, it's like, well, there's nothing to be patient for anymore. So that's what got our table to start look at, well, what should we be doing? How should this game run now that it isn't supported anymore? And that's what got me on the path of considering homebrew ideas. But then my table wanted to continue play, but not Pathfinder, so we got into Cypher System for a while. And so we played Cypher System in Eberron for a couple years, and then we got into 5e. I think 5e came out in 2014. We didn't get into 5e until 2016, so we actually started playing it for the first time. The first 5e campaign that I ran, level 1 to 20. I run campaigns from level 1 to 20. Regardless of what edition it is that you're playing, in about 250 hours, which is a 4-hour session. It takes about a year to do that. So I can cycle through a full 20-level campaign if I have a 3-4-hour shift each week. Every week, in about a year, I can finish a 20-level campaign, and then we'd start a new one, building off of what the last campaign did. So we've had 4 campaigns from level 1 to 20 in the Eberron that we've created, and that's what resulted in like the Spelljammer stuff that we're doing now. And we integrated Planescape, Spelljammer, and Eberron together like maybe 6 years ago, and I've been running that. But it wasn't until Spelljammer 5e came out that we didn't have actual rules for Spelljammer to leverage off of. Like, that's how they want to do it, so how can we do what we've been doing, which is like a very Cypher System ability check sort of game. It was super simple. It was whenever your ship took a hit, you'd have a -1 to whatever die roll that you needed. So in Cypher System, if you have enough skill and circumstances, you can drop the DC down to 0, so you don't even have to make a die roll anymore. But whenever our ship took damage, if we had to make a die roll, it would be a -1 per damage. So it was dependent on how good your ship could stay afloat if your pilot was skilled enough to keep it going. It's once the ship was so wrecked that your pilot couldn't keep it aloft anymore, that's when your ship would crash and you'd actually have to repair it. And then repairs was basically like the fatigue, like the exhaustion rules in D&D. Essentially, you would exhaust your ship's ability to fly, and then it would crash at the end. So it's a super simple system, but 5e is more complicated than that. So when 5e came out, obviously the Spelljammer book that I have down below is the results of the 5e mechanics that we came up with to be able to utilize that high degree of action economy and actual combat scenarios. But it was a really simple system, which is what we're going back to for the Guild Delvers role-playing game that I have trademark for now, that I need to build a website to keep my trademark patent. But we'll be kickstarting that project eventually. So I need to build a website, and I need to start promoting the idea of a Kickstarter for that, so I can start accumulating emails so I can potentially run a successful project in a couple of years. But yeah, it was once we actually started, once 5e quit making content, that's when I started considering homebrew, ironically. So that's my origin story, I guess. Oh, and then it was like, well, if I make books, then I can, just to tie everything off here in a bow. If I make my own books, then me making artwork isn't me leveraging the cost of time versus what the editor is willing to pay me. The artwork then becomes a direct contribution and means for me to support my own work. So like, what am I going to do? Like buy stock art for my own books? Fuck that. No way. I'm going to make my own art. So once I realized I could do that and it was fun, I've pretty much just been making content since and illustrating it, and it's been an absolute blast. And this guy's head's too big. So let's bring his head down to proper scale. There we go. We're going to be ready to color this guy here pretty soon. So that's my rant. That's where I come from. That's my origin story. That's all my bits. And what's up? Usually finish campaigns after about 2 years, and the characters around 12 to 14 from level 1. Right on, right on. I've been running games for about 37 years now, so I've gotten pretty good about, and I'm pretty empathic. So I can pick up on vibes pretty easily. I can tell if a team is gelling well. A lot of it has to do with dedication with each other. Fox, you've got a team that you've been running around with forever, right? If I'm not mixing up my stories from different players, the trick to having campaigns run for long arcs is loyalty to each other, and you build those bonds. Yeah. You build those bonds by continuously proving that you can trust each other through the medium of role-playing game, where there are no real risks to your human body. You have the ability to be true to your heart and project into your character through the campaign how you wish life could be, how you wish you could act, how you wish you could stand up to confrontation, how you could resolve problems. And I mean, everyone's different, but this is the takeaway that I've had since playing in the 80s, is the people that want to be heroes when there's nothing, no one cares, when there's no rules, when you just choose to be a hero because you know that making things better feels good, and that it's just, even if it's a fictitious society, that you're improving it. Like, those are the type of people that I'm naturally drawn towards as being allies and friends, that they want to build you up, and they want to find people that they can rely on as well. And those are very strong bond relationships. So I started using role-playing as a ways to curate that sort of a circle of friends around me. And the collateral benefit of that is, once you prove that playing with your friends is fucking awesome because you all trust each other, you all have the same sort of goofy sidelines, so like your inside jokes are ridiculous, and you know that whatever it is that you're going to run into, like the DM can create the most horrible or non-circumstantial experience, whatever catches the DM's fancy. You as a group of players know that, well, whatever it is that we stumble into, we're going to find some crazy fucking weird way to approach the situation, and if we do our job well, everyone is going to end up better, and the DM can't fight us because the end goals that we're presenting are so, like, if we create outcomes, like if we tell the DM what is going to happen, like this is what we want our end goal to be, so this is the path that we're going to follow, the DM can then be like, well, that's going to work or that's not going to work, and then start creating scenarios to build into or resist those efforts. And if the DM is on board with where the team is at, then the DM is basically giving them permission to change the world for better, and just creating the natural obstacles that whatever the scenario is would present to the players to overcome it. So the logic in the believability of the villains gets really easy, because you just start using just natural psychology of like, how would people respond if you tried to burn down their home like this? Well, here's their retaliation and their resources. So it becomes a very natural progression of play to be able to create confrontations that are realistic for the sort of challenges that the players are presenting. So I'm rambling hard at this point, as I'm wont to do on my own stream. But yeah, once you build like building a good D&D team, a good role-playing team, and D&D is unique in that experience. Like World of Darkness, I think it's kind of hard to build those kind of bonds, because so much of the World of Darkness is like potential PvP or like Cthulhu-like horror that you can lose agency, that you can't, there's something about World of Darkness that you just can't intrinsically trust that the people on your team are going to have your back, because like in Mage and the Ascension, they could get winked out of existence if they push their die too hard, and they break circumstances and paradox. In Vampire the Masquerade, the game is actively egging you onto PvP with each other, because Vampire is all about controlling other people around you, including other players. Werewolf has the most natural curve into bonding kinship. That's the theme of the game, but there's the risk of becoming corrupted, and then you have to TPK, then you have to PvP that character that got corrupted by Spiral, or you're sent on a suicide mission against Spiral and you're just utterly slaughtered. So you're kind of born to die. A lot of Werewolf the Apocalypse can be framed around this is the last stand for our reality, and you're going to die as a result of this, but your death is going to be brilliant. So there's no lasting success in Werewolf. So there's no real chance to because if you make the world better, the campaign ends. If you get rid of the demons, then there's no reason to continue. And so if your goals are to rid demons of this area, you're just destroying your own campaign theme in the process. D&D doesn't have that problem. D&D has so many sources of evil and non-evil conflicting goals that you can run any kind of story that you want inside of the framework of just the D&D motif in general. That's so difficult for like modern settings to catch. So it's only through D&D that I've actually been able to build bonds. Like Call of Cthulhu, everyone is going to die. So it's not like you want to build bonds with the characters, and the characters as avatar of the players become disconnected because you're expecting to die. So there's a real disconnect that happens there. So like D&D is really unique in the ability to build teams because of the dungeon trap motif that the campaign has originally been wrapped inside of. It encourages cooperation, mutual benefit, protecting each other, and working towards a common goal that just doesn't exist in most game systems outside of fantasy adventure. So I'm going to pause and reflect on that for a few minutes. Hey, what's up? 100%. You and I have the same thoughts. The players, including the DM, are the largest determination of successful games. Yeah. Not rules, not at all. Absolutely. And if the players want to be around each other, everyone, exactly. It becomes your hobby. If role-playing games is your hobby, you keep engaged in that hobby because the other people that participate in it, you just naturally resonate with. They become your friends through that hobby. So, and D&D in particular, I keep going back to D&D because it's my main point of reference. But dungeon delving is basically build a SWAT team that's you guys that's your troop against the world, and whatever change you're trying to affect in your environment is on you to achieve. Whatever resources you can create, whatever relationships you can bond, and whatever safe spaces you can create, these are yours that you've created for yourself and those that you deem worthy of receiving your protection and benefits. And so you really are imposing your will on this fantasy world. And when your team are good people, the will that they attempt to impose is benefit the people that are under your care. And that is such a subtle message that it just resonates through what everyone it just resonates through your table into, I've got a flat, can someone help me? Everyone on the fucking team is like, yeah, we're gonna help you. Everyone comes out, and even if there's too many hands to actually perform the task, you're at least cracking beers and jokes with each other while the tire is getting changed, so John can get home. So it's even people that you get in a fight with. It's like, hold on, let me Make my fucking tire iron. And by the time you're done with whatever the problem is, it's like you're friends again. You know, the conflict dies. So it's just, the friendships that you get from role-playing games is just amazing. And it's a dying art unto itself that I think it's worth preserving, and I think it's healthy for people to find ways to want to rely on other people to achieve things greater than themselves. That's how society sustains itself. That's how we get through the hard times in culture. That's how you aren't alone as you age. So anyway, heavy rants here, getting dense. Let's make that hand a little bit smaller. Oh, Fox, I wanted to ask you. Hold on. It was super close. We had stood each other's. Exactly. My teammates were at my weddings as well. I was at my teammates' weddings. It's just those are the bonds and friendships that you create, and that feels a little small now. Actually, it's gonna make that just a smidge bigger. I wanted to ask, since Fox, you are participating in the Martial Powers playtest. I had posted some ideas in the Discord as far as efficient power options. There's the sustained power where you're basically generating a mana field, and then you assign different powers to that sustain. So like whenever you use that power, like if I have 1 point at first level, I can have 2 powers. It'll cost me 1 point of mana to sustain it, and at first level, it's the only power I can sustain. But while sustaining that power, 2 of my first rank, like strikes or reactions, exploits, maneuvers, pick 2. Those are free to use. That's one option, but it ties up your sustained power slot, so you can't sustain anything else. But the idea there is that I'm sustaining this, basically like the static field of mana around me that taps into different powers that I can use, and that static effect is feeding the mana automatically in while I'm sustaining the field. And then the other option is just to stick with the feat that we already had, but limit the feat to basically your proficiency modifier. So like at first level, you can take that feat at most twice. At 5th level, you can take it 3 times. At 9th level, you can take it 4 times. At 13, you can take it 5 times. And at 17th level, you can take it 6 times. But it's going to cost you 6 mana to do that. So, when it's the feats, it doesn't cost you any extra mana. But it takes up your known slots. So it's either feats with a limit on how many feats you can take based on your rank, or it becomes a sustained power that you can, as you gain levels, put more and more mana into to reduce the cost of more and more powers. So I think it's kind of 6 or a half dozen. The only drawback, the downside, is for the sustained effect. It's a somewhat elegant solution that kind of fits in with the theme of how powers work in general, and it's a clever idea to be able to use a sustained power as like a static ball that you can pull mana from over and over again. But since you're the player that is using that is currently exploring efficient powers the most, I figure I'd want your feedback on which one we would test next week. So if you have any feedback about that, I am interested in hearing what that is, either here or in the Discord server. But I don't, the feat option where you're limited on how many times is repeatable, but limited based on your maximum spell level, as it were, that you can use, limits how many times you can take it, so that you can limit how much it can be exploited. Pardon the pun. That's very simple, which is probably the right way to go. But at the same time, having a sustained effect that generates mana for you to pump into chosen abilities it's cool. It's very Magic the Gathering. It's like it has a very MTG feel to it. So it's attractive to me. It's alluring. So But I suspect ultimately it's not the right decision to do that, but I wanted to have your feedback about what felt right, since you're the one that's leaning into and exploring these ideas the most. Hey, Francois. So take a look at that. You don't have to have an answer here now, but it is something that I would like to have your feedback for, whichever one that you're more interested in exploring. That's what we'll go with next week. Because I agree, having efficient, it's just that the first rank powers, if you don't pump a lot of mana into the first rank powers, they're not really that much more powerful than like a Battle Master maneuver or like a feat, for instance. Like especially the feats now in 5, like the Protective feat, the Interceptor feat, the Poisoner feat. These are all things that your character can do for free, but they're not really any more powerful. Or like the first rank powers, they're so finite and limited in applications that they're really just kind of like extra feats that you spend mana on. But so having an option for first level characters to choose some of them to be as though they are feats is the goal. It's the higher ranked powers that start getting really dangerous that you don't want characters to have free access to. It should always cost them mana, but we're only 4th level right now, so we're not fucking around with those yet. So we have a limited, distorted view of where we're at with the system, but like I said, ultimately, first rank powers aren't really that much more powerful than the feats that are already in 5e24. So that's why I think it's important to retain the ability to have efficient powers, because it's basically a way, like tell me I can have a whole bunch of extra feats without just giving me a whole bunch of extra feats that you have to spend resources of some sort to get access to them, right? I know I'm rambling a bit, so don't mind me. But hey, this guy looks pretty good. Anyway, that's something I'm very interested in having your feedback about. So when you have time, Foxy, let me know. But otherwise, I'm really happy with how the campaign is. Just the campaign itself, just from a game point of view, I'm pretty happy with the game. I could literally just do it for months, and that's the intention, is to run it for months, because it's fun. I haven't ran a mega dungeon like this in years, and it's neat to be able to adapt it. Like Nightmare Warden, for example, had said, I'm really looking forward to having more intelligent creatures that we encounter that we can bounce off of, that could potentially have more powerful gear that we can loot or bargain with, and to expand the narrative of the dungeon. And I like having factions inside of mega dungeons. They're super cool. So it's been fun as a DM to be able to create these environments and then supplement them with the enemies that are the factions that are inside of it. So far, the team has been started off fighting greenskins, and then once they defeated the greenskins, they retreated from the dungeon. It became the teams. And so for the past few sessions, everything that they've been fighting has been either spiders, dark mantles. They fought their first Umber Hulk this weekend, which is CR5. It's 1,800 experience points. And the team at 4th level, a deadly encounter is beyond 2,000 experience points. Like, you can expect to wipe the team if a single creature, or if the group of creatures total 2,000 or more experience points. An Umber Hulk by itself is 1,800, so it's brushing against deadly, and it was legitimately a good fight. We had 4 people on the table, and at least one character almost got dropped, and I think one other character got down to about 1/3 of their resources and hit points. So that was a legitimately good fight. And then there was the animated statues that also was nearly lethal to the team, and that was actually around 1,500 experience points worth of monsters, but they had resistances against the team that made it more difficult to drop them. So it looks like the way that 5e24 is calibrating the experience points for monster encounters is superior to the 2014 system. So I actually have a lot of confidence that the numbers that WotC has produced for what's appropriate difficulty for creatures is actually pretty on point. So that's exciting. That's exciting to see and experience as accurate. So I'm gonna tilt this leg a touch, and then we're gonna get to coloring. I think that's where we're at now. Here. But it's been spiders, umberhulks, dark mantles, spiders, umberhulks, dark mantles, undead like ghasts, ghouls, wights, zombies, and then constructs, living statues, iron cobra type creatures. But there hasn't been any like intelligent creatures since you cleared the orcs out in the first 2 sessions. So we're on session 6 right now, I think. Yeah, that feels right. So there's been 2 sessions with greenskins to interact with, and then it's been mindless since. So Nightmare Warden is right that it's about time for the team to run across something intelligent again, just to keep the variety and spice of what the team has going on. But that's not a spoiler. That is evidence that as a DM, I am responding to the requests of the team and what it is that they want to see in the adventure, which is something that we were just talking about, of being able to sustain a campaign for a full 20 levels requires the DM to be responsive to the type of things that the players want in their game. And true to form, like these are like those ideas, those are the sort of things that you need to have, like to keep a mega dungeon from going stale. You need factions and intelligent creatures to barter or to build a grudge against. You can't really build a grudge against undead. They're just doing what they do. That's like having a grudge against wolves. It's like you got to be a kind of a petty person to take what wolves do to people personally. It's just nature. Well, the nature of undead is evil. So of course they're going to be evil and eat you or do horrible things to you. It's just what they do. You don't get angry about it. You just get rid of them. They're a pest. Except for the intelligent undead. You should get angry at them because they actually know what they're doing. But if the white and the gas that the team ran across were the only intelligent ones. But again, even if they're intelligent, they're undead. So like their intelligence isn't so much, oh, I'm reasonable to work with you and there's a way out of this conflict. They're like, no, it's just they're clever in killing you. That's all. That's like a sinister intelligence. It's not like a negotiable intelligence. It's uncompromising evil. That's what undead are. If they're intelligent, it just means that they're tactical. They aren't stupid. They're not gonna just like for example, on one session the team was at the top of a stairwell, and there was a bunch of zombies chasing them. So they basically formed a shield wall at the top of the stairs, and then they were tripping and pushing the zombies into each other down the stairs. So the zombies kept getting knocked down, and they like throw fire down on them or an AoE spell effect to just basically burn them down, because stairs are a serious threat to zombies if they can't get past the shield. Super easy tactic. That you need to have a system that allows you to do stuff. Fortunately, the action economy, maneuvering, and tactical abilities of the power system that we've been working with allows the team to be able to do fun stuff like that, and it proved very effective against unintelligent undead, or it would have worked equally well against, say, constructs, because they don't have the reasoning, like the problem-solving skills of climbing this wall isn't working. They just try to climb over each other and up the stairs and get knocked down again. As long as they can't get through the shield, that's good. But of course, the white used that as a distraction to come around and flank the team and then try to drain life off of the ranger that was throwing arrows over the shield to knock people down. Fun tactic. But you know, that again, you don't negotiate with intelligent undead. They just want to kill you. What was I talking about? Why was I chasing this? I'm sure I had a good reason. I suspect I'm missing text. Nope. No text. Just let me yammer. Thank God. So if we add our people back in, yeah, see, that's great, because that's about all a lot of that leg stuff is completely unnecessary, but we're going to include it anyway. But this does tell me that I should change the angle on that arm. Okay, I've got a flicker effect going on here, but I don't think you guys are seeing it. Let's take this. Yeah, that'll look better in the background. Free transform. Let's try that again. Free transform. Merge down. I love holidays. The next significant burst of off work time I expect is going to be in May. May 19th through 23rd is going to be the next, maybe the 20, I think the 26th is going to be a holiday. So probably from the 19th to 26th, I'll have, that'll be the next stretch that I have off. I've got a day off late March that I'm going to be going to the dentist. That'll be a day off. But yeah, the week of May 19th to 26th is, I take 2 week-long vacations every year. One is between Christmas and New Year's, and the other is in May because of my birthday. So those are the 2 weeks that I take out of a year, and during those weeks I reward myself by being a full-time, a full-time artist, full-time book creator, content creator. So I don't think there's any holidays between now and then. Yeah, so anything that I take off, I might have to take, nope, my vacation time won't accrue so much that I'll cap it. My vacation time is going to cap right in the middle of May, so that's perfect timing for my my birthday vacation week. The company I work at, we have a 200-hour accrual maximum, where after you have 200 hours of vacation time accumulated, you don't accumulate any more hours. So the 200-hour mark hits basically it takes 3 months for me to accumulate 40 hours of vacation time. So the space from New Year's till May, and then from June till October-ish is the time it takes for me to hit cap again, for me to take a week break. So that works out really well for me. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, Defected? St. Patty's, that is not a day off for me. I'm not doing good. No, you cannot select 2 layers at the same time. That is one of the flaws of, hold on. Let me make sure I'm not full of shit. I'm pretty sure you can't. So yeah, it takes the entire thing. If you have more than 1 layer selected, it selects all of them together. So you gotta do one at a time. But that's okay. All right, so let's see. I'm not really happy with how that skull looks compared to the rest of the body, but it's pretty inconsequential and small in comparison to the total mass. So I'm just gonna grab. Let's grab some. Let's grab some gut. Let's go with a red here. Let's go with that one. No, that's too dark. Let's go here. Fill that in. Here, add in the guts, and then we'll light it up, and we'll do, the skin. And then we'll do the body shadowing down towards the ground, and then we'll move on to the next piece. I'm gonna add some glop in there. There. What's up? Should take a week sometime to snorkel. Hey, right on. I got friends that are scuba divers here in Seattle. I do not like the water. It's I've had bad experiences as a kid with water, and I haven't been able to overcome it. So I enjoy water skiing. You know, like if I've got flotillas on me, I'm pretty happy with being in the water. I'm content with it. But if I don't have anything, I get panicky because I don't see well. So I don't see good at all. And water is very, like, you're very low on the horizon. There's often light reflecting off of it. And the problem, one of my main problems is that my vision is so limited that if I want to see something, I have to literally walk to it to see what it is. I can't just zoom in and look at something far away. I have to physically move there because of the way that my retinas are broken. So that's very difficult to do with water. Like if I'm swimming in water, I can't just casually walk up to something and check it out. I have to spend time swimming up to it to see if it's what I need. And if it's not where I need to be, then I now have significantly less energy resources to get back to where I was to figure out where I'm supposed to go. And that caused a lot of panic. A lot of panic in a very young Phil. So my parents quickly realized, yeah, just throwing the kid in the water is not the way to go. My life is such a tragedy. But it made me who I am, so I celebrate it. I really do. Let's grab these ladder bits here, and then start putting these over the organs. Like that. Yeah, I hate swimming. I love water skiing, but I hate swimming. My family had a cabin in Kentucky on the dam that they built. This was in the 80s and 90s. We eventually let it go because, you know, distance. But when I was growing up, there would be I have 8 aunts and uncles, and all of them, pretty much for the most part, they all had 2 or 3 kids each. So there was about 20 some odd cousins. And a dozen parent figures that would hang out in this cabin in Kentucky for a week, and we would wake up and go into the water and start skiing, and we would stay there until late afternoon until it was barbecue time, and then we'd eat barbecue, and then night would come in and we would play spades basically all night. Spades and pillow fights. That's how the evenings went. Super fun, awesome childhood. Very, very blessed. But I mean, all of us went in on us. My parents and my dad's 8 siblings all shared the cost with my granddad to own this place as a vacation sanctuary, basically. Oh, super fun. It was amazing. Very, very blessed childhood. Let's grab some color like this. But yeah, I gained a real love of water skiing for that, and a pretty strong hatred for water. I was willing to endure the water and the swimming to get to the skis, but I would just rather just hang out on the dock and snark at each other while sister and friends were, cousins were swimming. I would just tan and snark at them. They'd get out of the water eventually, so I didn't feel like I lost anything, and I couldn't see them anyway, so it didn't really matter. That's great. Let's do that. Fair enough, Francois. I like spearing invasive fishing. Oh, super fun. And the San Marcos is infested with Pacts, suckerfish that erode the banks. Oh, right on. Holy Hannah, that would be awesome. We had a creek in the back of our house growing up that had crawdads in it. So chasing after crawdads was a lot of fun. I grew up in Missouri, which is it's a very wide. It's a lot of green, a lot of hills, a lot of lakes, a lot of rivers. And then as you go west towards Kansas, it starts to flatten out basically into plains. But on the west, on the east side of the state, there's just a ton of type of geographical, like different types of landscape, different types of terrain. It was super fun. The house that I spent most of my childhood in was was basically on the Merrimack River, which was a really large river system, and there was bluffs that would surround. There was lowland where the water would spill into and flood, and then there was a number of bluffs, and so our home was situated around the bluffs that would oversee lowland. So I'd get all those different types of terrain. And if we would march, if me and my friends would march through forest for about an hour, we would find basically there would be a hill that went up that was a sheer cliff face at the end of it. So it was like a ramp, a 500-foot ramp. No, it was probably about 300-foot ramp that then just dropped off as a cliff. And there was just, the largest tree was about 100 feet on the end of that cliff. So we would be able to sit up there on the cliff, smoke cigarettes, dope, whatever, hang out and shoot the shit, camp a little bit at night, and it'd just be open sky, and you would just see distant hills and then just forest and river stretching out from underneath it. It was gorgeous. It eventually became somebody's backyard as society kept pushing in more and more land, property sales into space. Somebody eventually bought that area and built their house at the top of the bluff. And we would still go up there and just try to be quiet. They caught us once. They're like, "What is up?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I've been here since I was a kid, blah, blah, blah." And as long as we brought the mota, they were pretty okay with us being there. So that was pretty cool. But that happened when I was in college, and it was pretty much one of the last times I was up there anyway before I moved out to Arizona. And then eventually from Arizona to Seattle. So, but yeah, Missouri's amazing. It is a really beautiful place. A lot of deciduous green trees, a really, really wide variety of weather. The joke about Missouri is that if you don't like the weather, wait a minute, and because it changes that fast. Lots of lightning storms. In the time that I was living there as a child till college, I think the hottest weather was 120 degrees with like 90% humidity, and the coldest extreme was -30 with the wind chill. So it's just a huge range of temperature and variety. It was a really fun place to grow up because you got a piece of basically everything, except for coastal water. It's the only thing we didn't get. But it was a fun place to live, and just massive, like hundreds of miles of forest. It's just, it exists. It was super cool. Just get lost out there. Like literally got lost out there one time. Found a railroad, followed the railroad back to a station, and got picked up by our parents. Me and my friend Kyle would just go out there with a couple joints and just get lost for a while. It was fun. Back before computers and the internet, when running amok was basically your only pastime. I was a really healthy kid. Yeah, this guy's looking pretty good. Let's grab some of this. Goes to town. Oh, nice. I also make my trip in early August. Mug gets stirred up with it. Oh, fun. Super fun. Right on, man. Let's do it with that. And we'll grab some of these higher lights here. Not much of a difference. Let me get here. Get this guy done. We'll do the teeth last. But yeah, this guy is ready for me to merge. So we're going to duplicate the group. We're going to then merge the whole group together. Whoop. See, I can erase through the entire thing now, which means it's all one layer. So now let's go in and do some cleanup. We'll do cleanup first, and then we'll start integrating everything together. And then we'll move on to the next piece. So we should be able to make pretty good ground today. And since this is my day off, I'm going to spend some downtime just doing household upkeep, spending my own personal bastion die on maintaining my property, and then I anticipate being back on stream at 1 o'clock Seattle time. That'll be in about 5 hours from now. It's almost 8 o'clock here in Seattle, so let's see. Yeah, that's about 5 hours from now we'll be back on. And we'll continue working on the Bastion campaign source book. We're cataloging all of the different types of benefits that the facilities in a Bastion can provide to the Bastion and the characters. And then so we'll complete that task today, and then we'll start looking for the commonalities and create a consistent structure, because there's a lot of different type of ideas that are currently floating around inside of the Bastion benefits. We're going to standardize what those facility benefits are so that they're replicatable and that you can see the patterns so it becomes intuitive to use them. And so we'll start that at 1 o'clock, and we'll probably go with that. We'll see. We might take a break, but my intention is, if I'm capable of sustaining it, keeping online for maybe I'll give myself up to 6 hours. So I could potentially run till 7 o'clock, from 1 till 7. I don't know if I'll be able to sustain that long term. I might burn out after a while. Once my brain starts to burn out, I can't make good decisions anymore, and so I can only do so much book development per day, because once I lose the creative spark, that it absolutely eats up my battery to sustain creativity like that. But once it burns out, then everything kind of feels the same, and I can't see the subtleties needed to be able to create a good game system, regardless of what it is. So I have a limited battery, and I don't know. Sometimes building stuff generates its own mana, as it were, like we were talking about before, ironically. Sometimes the process of creation generates mana to allow me to push further, which is how, like, when I'm off screen, I can work 6 hours straight without, taking a break or a drink. But there's a different type of energy when you're online, partially dedicating attention to what's going on over here in chat, while also attempting to focus on delving into mechanics, which is why I don't do page layouts when I'm on stream, because the amount of attention that it requires for me to parse data into space and text, it's too intense for me to be able to do both at the same time. The development streams that I do is more of a curiosity or an oddity than like heavy work. Like, if I was serious about completing the Bastion campaign, then I would stop everything else that I'm doing and just focus fire on that off screen and come back to you each day with like 10, 15 new pages. But this Eberron project is my primary project right now. So when I'm off screen, I'm working on the page layouts for this so that we can get it done and published. And once we publish it, we have the Bastion campaigns, we have martial powers, we have the color mana system to revise for 2025. And we also have the Spelljammer subclasses, Spelljammer Mecha Kaiju, of course the Bastion system that we're working on, but beyond that, in command of squads and armies to complement and further, basically further progress the ideas of warfare using 5e mechanics. Here's my quick rant about that. A whole bunch. There's been other companies that have created mass combat options that could be used in 5e, but for the most part, all of them have you stop playing 5th edition so that you can do their warfare thing. The good ones allow whatever it is that your characters have going on in 5e to kind of modify what their warfare stuff can do, like perks and stuff like that. But it's still very, very few things I've seen out there are actually using 5e mechanics. They kind of straddle the 5e game engine, but don't actually, for the most part, use the 5e game engine like MCDM stuff doesn't can work with 5e, but like the 2 lines and the resolution mechanics is not very 5e. So it's the best option that most people are aware of, simply because Colville's stuff is popular. But I will stick my finger in an eye and say it's not actually 5e, nor do they intend. They don't actually want 5e content. They make it because it sells. They want to do whatever it is that they got going on, which is more 4e in style. I will say that I specifically want to work inside of the 5e game engine. So when I create solutions, I'm looking for what exists in 5e that we can then use in a different way to make mass combat work. And the Spelljammer book that I have is a good demonstration of that general premise with the way that squadrons and fleet combat works. That derived from the mass combat system that we had already been using prior to Spelljammer's release, but we put all that stuff on pause because Spelljammer was a hot ticket. My design team knew that that was the best way to go at the time that we had. So I put this project on hold for a year to build out, to build mechanics, play test them in a campaign, and then formalize the rules, hand it off to an editor, and then do the artwork and publish the book. So once that completed, then my Stuart Braz and Andy Healy, who helped me create this Eberron adventure, they were very understanding and patient with, like, hey, I've got this thing going on with Spelljammer I need to do. They're like, okay, go ahead and do it. We trust you. And so I have to repay that trust by completing this before I take on my next adventure, my own next adventure, my own next challenge, which is why I've been prioritizing this Eberron adventure so much. Not that I think that creating adventures is so important that it trumps everything else, but it's I honestly need to stick to it to get it done, because that's what I promised my team that I would do. So integrity is incredibly important. But at the same time, the amount of stuff that I've been creating other things on the side here on stream, because I have to have more than one project going at a time. Otherwise, I risk burning out on whatever project I'm like. If I hyper focus on only one project, if I burn out on that project, I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get back to it. And it's a serious risk. So I have to diversify what I'm working on so that I can mentally shift gears on a day-to-day basis to be able to not think about this for the rest of the day once we're done with it. But like in that 4-hour break that I'll be taking today, I'll probably do a couple pages of layout on this. And I've got about maybe 20 pages left in the adventure, and then all the layouts will be done. And once that's done, then all my downtime that I'm currently spending on doing page layouts, I can spend on doing artwork. Whether it's like speeding up the completion, like of this piece, which I could complete in a week if I had focused 40 hours on it during the week. It was the only thing I was working on. I'd be able to knock it out really quickly. Alas, earwax, that is not what I'm doing. But once those page layouts, because these page layouts, the 16 by 9 format is seriously kicking my ass. It is the most difficult page layout format that I've ever encountered, and at the same time attempted to produce myself. It is parsing information, like with the size of the font, there's a very limited amount of information that you can fit in each column, and each column has to have its own complete thoughts, so that when you zoom in and look at only one column at a time, you don't have to think, like, you don't have to worry about thinking about anything else than what's in this stack of words, what's in this stack of words, what's in this next stack. Like, everything that we're building is a complete thought inside of each column. I could have multiple thoughts in each column with these category breakdowns. And like if a region requires more than one column, I have to break it down so that that region is broken up into subsections, so that I can discuss each of them in one column, or like in half of a column, or however much space it takes. I can't end a thought here and continue the thought at the top of the next. It has to be, even if it's just a partial thought, it has to complete with its own punctuation, that you could walk away from that as a complete statement and just be self-contained as an idea. And that is, I've never operated at that level of parsing data. And I suspect what that's setting me up to do is that once I do get into Kickstarters, like the 5x9 digest format of the small digest, like Runehammer, Shadow Dark, a lot of the little OSR folio type things are in these digest size 5x9s, and it does not escape me that there's an 1.5 inches of space here at the bottom of the page. And at the top of the page, that's just basically filigree around the edges that gets me into that 5x9 space of active area. This project has basically, for the past year, been training me to work in that digest format at a large font size in very small parsable pieces of data that I suspect means that I'm going to be capable of producing printed zines for like the Guild Delver system that we've been developing. I can build that in a zine format in a printable document with black and white art that I'll be able to print, that I would also then be able to potentially put into this 3-column format as a digital product, and then just color all the art. Really thinking about that. There's a lot of potential there. So it's real. This is a grueling process, but that crucible of learning is getting me to a place where my skill set is expanding. And so let me say this. The trials and tribulations that we face in our life suck, and they're supposed to suck. They are painful lessons that we are learning on a higher plane of existence, that the higher plane sees the entire timeline as though it were reading a cheater's manual for a video game, like a player's guide. You go down this passageway, you'll find this equipment. The boss is going to be difficult, but if you beat the boss, you're going to get this resource available. It's going to make X, Y, and Z so much easier in the future. So here's a guide on how to beat that enemy. Whatever it is in our higher self that exists on a plane beyond this has access to that player's guide. And if you are here in space-time now, you are an expert at whatever game you are playing of whoever you are. You are a champion of you. No one scores high points like Phil does, but me. Like, I am the best Phil player in the universe, and I am playing at a very high level, just as you are for you, whoever you are. And once you start recognizing that truth, all these things that fucking suck in our life, once we get to the other side of it and we see how life plays out, you can see the narrative. You can't see it as you're moving forward because of the fog of war. You can't see where you're going to until you discover it, and then you overcome that challenge. Once you overcome that challenge and you open up the gate point, or like the save point beyond that, you can look back and you can see how all that shit that you had to go through up to this point set you up to have all the equipment, tools, philosophy, and mental and emotional endurance to take on whatever's beyond that fog of war next. Most of us can't set aside the hurt of those experiences to be able to see the big picture. But after you suffer enough, long enough, repeatedly enough, with the same problems, you start to recognize, wait, there's a pattern that's happening here. And then you start looking for patterns, and then you see bigger patterns, and then you start seeing that your life is a pattern, and that it's setting you up, that the pattern that's being built here is that everything that happens to you is allowing you to evolve in the next direction, to take you further and further down whatever path it is that all these experiences have guided you towards. And if you can get on board with that, you can stop being afraid of what your next step is, but instead just literally throw yourself off the cliff, knowing that if the game allows you to jump off of the cliff in the first place, it's because there's things for you to explore in that space as you fall through it. So you can become fearless in your life and be willing to take on the challenges that are being brought to you. And if it hurts and you're scared of it, it's because you need to learn how to feel hurt and scared more. That you've been too fearless in your past lives for you to be able to appreciate the struggles of others around you. You build empathy that way. It's interesting. It's really fascinating. If I'm wrong, I'll know when I'm dead. But if I'm right, it is the ultimate cheat code to be able to get through the experiences of yourself and to, at the same time, forgive yourself for not appreciating that you're there. The simple idea that you can, like, in this moment, I can appreciate how hard my life is. But when my life gets hard and I can't appreciate it because it's so hard that I get lost inside of it, I'm basically inside of a mini game right now that's pushing my limits on suffering. And once I complete that mini game and I pull out of it back into the larger campaign in general, I can look back and appreciate how that little mini game I had to go through gave me a little bit more tolerance and endurance for what I have to suffer through for me to hit the next level. So you can always take my philosophies with as a large a salt lick as you need to get through the conversation. But if you're still here, this is your life too. And I am here to tell you that anyone can approach their reality from this perspective of it really is a game where time is your fog of war, and that all you have to do is pass through the trials and see what those trials are producing for yourself to become everything that you actually want to be when you set down what you think you're supposed to be, what you think your life is supposed to be, where you think you're supposed to get. Well, life will tell you you're wrong, because we're all just stumbling through and we all wonder what's on the other side of that fog of war. And the only way for us to get there is to fight through it, literally. Have to fight through it. And the only fight that we have is showing up. And you really get the Grandmaster status when you start to recognize that all the tools that you need are already inside of the system. And that you can, at any time, go into the settings and toggle difficult versus easy mode. And when you get good enough, the most difficult mode becomes easy. And then you can start speedrunning. And then you can start looking for bonus points. Tony Hawk was a cool game like that, because you could run through the course, but then as you got more and more familiar with the skate course, you could find more and more ways to generate tricks. So the point was to get a high score off of the tricks that you had while not wiping out during the challenges that you would face. So thank you, Tony Hawk, for creating such a wonderful analogy of what reality can be for people. Isn't that a cow joke? Because of the way time works, what if we're all dead and we're actually with St. Peter reviewing our lives? That is a very strong theory, that we're being allowed the opportunity to play through the last episode. Like, we're basically, if this is life review, the only way life review can be effective is if we forget that we're already dead, so that we can re-experience it. But this time, the only memory we have of this time, if you are correct, Francois, then that feeling that we have, that spark of intuition, that conscience that we have that tells us don't do that, don't do this, that is as though the angels are telling us, this is where you got hurt last time, or do you feel that experience? This is what you learned there. And it's only when you pull your head out of the ocular are you able to see that it's like, oh yeah, I can understand where this came from. And then you put the goggles back on and you lose yourself again. And the only thing that you have is the consciousness inside of this biosuit with very specific rules, with built-in philosophies, genetic flaws, all the stuff that makes being human human. Yeah, I think that's completely viable. I think that's completely viable. I have heard from more than one philosopher that we are already dead, including White Zombie. That I remember her saying that we're already dead. And if we're already dead, there's really nothing to fear because this isn't a test, it's a review. I will say I spent a lot of time in martial arts growing up, and I've stepped away from martial arts. I'll say this. One of the most interesting things about martial arts that I experienced is that people that operated at a really high level would talk about how the challenges, the things that they would encounter were not normal things. One practitioner that I hung around for a little while was from Israel, and he would talk about how when he would fly back from Japan or wherever it was that he was at, back to Israel, that in more than one occasion someone would attempt to knife him in the airport, like 6-inch blade, trying to stick it into his ribs, flat out just fucking assassinate him. And he was aware that it was happening, and he had the skill set to be able to prevent it from happening and, detain whoever it was, and then they get hauled away. And he wore it as a badge of honor that he had become so powerful that evil was attracted to him, not because he needed to be defeated, but because the evil needed to be defeated. Some of the people that I trained with, the apartment that they lived in, this is during college, their home got broken into while they were there. One guy was one of my friends. I'll keep the names. I'll skip the names to not call anyone out. But they lived together in an apartment. One of them was asleep in his room. The other one was working, doing laundry down in the basement. And a crackhead had broken in with a butcher knife and wanted all of his money. So he went back up to the apartment with this guy holding him from behind with a butcher knife at his throat. He says, "Is anyone else here?" I said, "Yes, my roommate." He says, "Call him out here." So he called loud enough so that he would hear him. Roommate woke up, immediately intuited that there was something wrong, grabbed a real blade, grabbed a real sword off of his wall, opened the door, and rushed the guy that was holding the holding the butcher knife. So my friend that was being held basically just put up his hands like this, so if he got cut, it would only be his hand, not his throat. And so this guy was holding his friend like this with a butcher knife. Well, the guy that was sleeping, we'll call him X. X was asleep. He woke up. He grabbed his sword. He cut off his elbow. He just flicked off his elbow with the sword. Cut his elbow off. It stuck to the wall. His arm went limp. So he immediately lost the ability to cut anything because his elbow didn't work anymore. So his arm just fell away. And he freaked out, started just bleeding everywhere, and ran. So X with the sword took off after him down the street. This is in Columbia, Missouri, a college town in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. Chasing him in his underwear down the street with a sword over his head while this guy is screaming, running, holding his arm, running down the street. He gets picked up by the cops, and they go back to his apartment, and the guy's elbow is still like his elbow bone. It's still stuck to the wall where it got flicked off. And so when they got their police report, they framed the police report. They left the stain of the blood from the elbow on the wall, and they put the police report above the elbow. But this is just like one of dozens of stories that I have been told by people that were involved, like deeply involved in like actual combat art, like how to actually kill people. There's something crazy about that energy, that violence gets pulled to them. Not because they're doing something wrong, but because there's something about reality that says whatever horrible things are in reality, we're going to put them in front of things that can resolve it one way or another. And they will be resolved. It's sad that the resolution that is so often involved with martial arts is kill the evil. And the philosophy there is if you kill the evil, it's gone for at least a few generations. The wider, more shamanistic approach, philosophy behind that is if you kill the evil, it will return, and you won't know where it is. Which is, I think, is where a lot of the idea about removing the death penalty came from. Is that if we kill this person, we're just going to put them back in the hopper of being evil born someplace else to be fixed, because it hasn't been healed, it's been punished. And evil is a punishment unto itself that needs to be healed. But unfortunately, there's no way for evil to express, I need healing, than to commit acts of evil that need forgiveness. Which, if you're a Christian sort of mentality, which is really just the brilliance of the Christian faith, where we recognize that evil exists, and the only way to purge it is to be able to create a way for it to forgive itself from its evils, which needs something greater than it to say it's okay what you did. It's not okay what you did, but that you had to be the person that did it, it's part of your path. And that it's not your fault that you were the one that was chosen to do this. You have to forgive yourself that this was what you were a part of. And part of that healing process is to not do it again. And that takes a lot of energy, a lot of courage, and a lot of strength, which is a really interesting facet of the idea of forgiveness that's pretty unique, as far as I know, to the Christian faith. But it has really interesting shamanic roots, that it's like the only way to purge the evil from ever coming back is for it to be able to learn how to let go of that pain that it's holding. If you've ever seen Princess Mononoke, that is an excellent anime. And it's really fascinating because it starts off with the opening scene is just such a fucking amazing scene. It is some of the best anime ever, where an animal spirit, the god of boars, basically gets infected with a human level of suffering, and it drives it mad, and it starts to attack this little town, this little clan's village. And it has to be killed. It has to be dropped because it's hurting people, and so the shaman comes out when the boar gets felled. The shaman is like, you need to rest now. Don't be vengeful to us for having to end you. We just want you to be at peace. And that was like, it was so compassionate. But serious, like, you are a serious problem. You need to be dealt with, but we want to deal with you with compassion. And it's just, that's so strong. And so what got me out of, that made me stop martial arts, was that I didn't, at the time, I was starting to get pulled into things like that as well. I was part of a gun being pulled on people. Somebody pulled a gun on the person at a bus stop here in Seattle that I was at. And I got grabbed to be used as a shield while they were arguing over who stole whose shit. And it's like, I'm going to get killed if this doesn't go well. This guy just grabbed me and he's got a gun. And it was so funny because as soon as I realized that, I lost consciousness. I just flat out, I disappeared. I did not wake up during that experience. Whatever it was that happened, when I woke up, I was in the middle of standing up. And the best I can tell what happened was, as soon as I realized that I was at threat of being killed, what probably would have looked at like me fainting caused me to drop my weight. So the guy that was trying to hold me with the gun could not hold my weight. I dropped off of his weight, and as soon as I hit the ground, I rolled, woke up, and stood back up. So it was like, like whatever time it takes for me to fall and stand up again, that guy realized he had no cover, and the other guy took off running, and this guy took off after him, and I stood up. Like, I didn't stand up. I hit the ground, rolled, and then popped back up to my feet on my own without me being awake. So I woke up in the middle of me standing back up again, and these guys were already taking off. So whatever happened there with me caused me to basically blank from the situation. And that's the first time I had been faced with lethal force and I wasn't there to do some sort of cool Chuck Norris-y shit of like taking this guy out. My role in this place was for me to recognize that whatever happens, I'm carried through it, and that I am not there to end people. I was never there to end people. I was there to get to a point where I could be confident that I would be carried. Like the whole lesson, the whole 20 years I spent in combat training was there just to teach me that I will be carried through whatever threat happens to me, that I don't have to have the solution, that I will be cared for. And that was when I was like, you know what? I don't want to escalate this. I don't want to hunt evil. I want to have a family. I want to grow up. I want people to feel safe around me. And if I continue with this, that means that there's going to be evil that's eventually going to come to my door, like my friends in Colombia. And I can't raise a family that way. I can't guarantee the safety of someone's home if I'm attracting evil. So that's why I stopped being involved in martial arts. But that was such just an incredible time in my life to see these things unfolding. So yeah, I don't doubt, or rather I deem it plausible that we're already dead, and that this is an opportunity for us to see just how fucking, like, it's a highlights reel. Like, this reality is parsing through a highlights reel of how awesome it is you did what you did. The life that you led, the pains that you're enduring, the solutions that you solve, the interactions that you have with people is perfect. Like, high score. People are going to talk about your speed run for years because no one does it like you. And you can't appreciate that truth until you have the opportunity to look at it in hindsight from an out of time perspective of see what you set up, see what you built for us, see what you've achieved, see what we can do now. We couldn't have done any of that without you. And that everyone is having that conversation. At least that's what I'm being led to believe. And we'll see, when I die, we'll see if I'm right or not. You can tell me if I'm wrong, you can tell me so. When you find me when I'm dead. Anyway, I'm really off the deep end today, so don't mind me. I normally don't have a long enough stream in the morning to be able to talk about stuff like this. It's only on vacation days like this where I literally don't care how long it takes for me to do whatever I'm doing that these kind of conversations can manifest, because I can't think like this when I'm doing design streams, because I'm building something and I'm occupying most of my brain space with how does this die roll work, or is this advantage good or not. It's only when I'm doing artwork like this that I literally don't have to think at all, that I can turn off my brain, and whatever it is that the muse wants to talk about today, she's the one that's basically feeding me the art. So she gets to talk about whatever she wants to talk about while she's doing the artwork through me here on stream. So it leads to some unusual conversations. So I can't really say I'm sorry. It's just part of the process, I guess. It's what I do. Yeah, no kidding. It's only when you're actually faced with true violence that you stop romanticizing about it and recognize the severity of like what it is, I tried to join the military. They wouldn't even let me be a cook in the army. I guess the philosophy in the military is everyone's got to be able to shoot a gun. Everyone's got to be able to protect the team. And I don't see well. I'm not safe with a gun. I can't see well enough. I used to play paintball just to see what I could do, and I shoot my friends all the time. My friends eventually asked me to stop playing because I shot them so much on accident. It's like, we love you, Phil, but we'll keep playing D&D with you instead. That was disappointing, but it also it also helped me recognize and accept my limitations. Which is that's when I actually started getting involved in martial arts. Because it's like, well, if I can't be good with a gun, I feel really defenseless. I need to do something that will will teach me to use what I have to make the most of what I have. And martial arts helped me ramp my intuition to sense danger, to stay out of it. I don't know why this place feels dangerous, but I can't go here. It feels wrong. And I've never been with a person. Fortunately, I've never been around a person when I've had that feeling, and I will say, I cannot go there. This feels wrong. We have to leave. And no one has ever questioned me on that. And I think I feel very fortunate because I have no idea what would have happened if anyone had ever questioned me, or if I had allowed myself to go into a situation that felt wrong when everything in my heart said, you got to get the fuck out of here. Like, I so often have no idea why, but something triggers and it says, get out. And I have learned to listen to that unquestioningly. And I don't think I'd have that intuition if I hadn't spent that time in training. I'm okay with a shotgun. Shotguns have pretty short ranges. They're also AoE, so it's hard. They're very point and click, like literally. It's hard to miss with them, and they're close, but it's certainly no ranged weapon. So like if you're like more than 50 feet away, it becomes questionable if I even know who you are. That's how bad my vision is. So like, I'm more of like, give me a good riot shield and a sword, and I can stand in front of the guy with the gun. I recognize my limitations in this situation, so I can at least do that. Like that's a role I would be willing to play in riot situations. But I'm not good with a gun. But yeah, I tried every branch and none of them would take me. It was 4F down the line. Feel your vision's just too shit. You can't trust you to do anything. Hell, I can't read half the crap that they had. So it's like, yeah, I can't do this. I was gonna go into the military instead of college because I just wanted out. I lived on a horse ranch growing up. And I can't drive and I can't see far. I can't ride a horse because the horses can't trust me because I don't know where we're going, so I can't give the horses direction. That freaks them out. So I got to shovel their shit my entire life, but I never really got to ride them. So I was trapped in this horse ranch and I just wanted to get the fuck out. So military seemed like the best solution because it gave me direction and I could build a set of skills that I could use, but then they wouldn't take me. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll go to college, and my folks wouldn't pay for my college because I didn't have any plan. So I had to do that myself. And, but they were right. I just went to college to get the fuck away. So why would they appreciate that? I don't blame them for not wanting to give me money to essentially give them the finger and run away. That's fair. But yeah, after 3 years of college, I'm like, yeah, I just got here because I just wanted to escape and find out who I am. And now that I know who I am, I'm going to, and then I got into culinary. And then I got out of culinary because I hate politics and licenses, like being a chef is all about, it really is about title. Like you can't get a lot of money unless you get titles. And the only way you get titles is by kissing ass. And I was having none of that at the time. So I'm like, okay, well, fuck this industry. But I gained enough skills as a cook from going to culinary school that I could land a job in any restaurant that I wanted in town. So I picked my favorite restaurant. It's a little Italian joint called Pasta Factory. It was in Columbia, Missouri. And they had the best eggplant I had ever eaten. They had the best cheesecake I had ever eaten. They had the best Alfredo sauce, honestly, that I'd ever eaten. It was the most amazing restaurant I'd ever eaten at. And I'm like, I want to work there. And I had more technical experience than any other stoner that was coming through the door they'd ever seen. So like, yeah, we'll take you. So I started working there for I guess 3 years. I became their inventory. I handled their inventory. I became their prep cook. I did all their desserts. I show up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'd leave by 2, and I'd have the rest of my day. So I played D&D in the afternoon when my friends got out of school. It was fucking dope. Such a great time in my life. It was amazing. But I wouldn't have been able to get there if I hadn't been rejected by so much and had to burn out all my other options. But it was like, it was amazing. It was so great. I was making solid money at the time. And it was like 1994, I was making $15 an hour. That's pretty fucking good money for a 20-year-old. That was pretty good money, man. I could hold up my end of the rents and all the utilities and have money left over to help my friends if they were trying to get by. Could afford kegs pretty regularly. I could definitely afford weed and hallucinogens and stuff. So I mean, I was living large, man. I had everything that I wanted in life. It was beautiful. But again, it's that you don't understand why you go through the suffering you go through until you see what that suffering does for you. But you don't get to see it up front. They don't say, hey, you know, if you go through this bullshit for 6 years, you're going to be in a space where you don't ever have to be afraid again of like losing your home. You're going to be set for the rest of your life. You don't see it going in. You just see, God, this is terrifying. How the fuck am I supposed to get through this? And that's what helps teach you to let go and trust the process. And even if you don't trust the process, even if you doubt the process the entire way, just simply surviving the experience automatically adds to your inventory the tools that you need to be able to take on the next task. And they automatically get queued up for you to use when that task arrives. It's pretty freaking miraculous. It is ridiculous how life seems to conspire against people that are allowing life to be their advocate, to co-pilot for them. Which is really where that meditational state of releasing control, of surrendering yourself to the larger will of whatever reality it is that you believe in. All of them are readily accepting compliance, and not in a creepy authoritarian way, but in a humble, meek sort of way. What is that line? The meek shall inherit the earth. It's not so much that, it's that these are the people that are willing to listen to the signal and run the play. We're looking for people to run the play. And you have been built and inserted into this reality specifically because you're a fucking speedrunner. No one does it like you. No one does it like you. Hey, this guy's looking pretty good. I think I can call him done. So let's move on to the next one. This has a little bear. Let's scratch that up a bit. Good enough. Wait. We need the obligatory purple blitz. There. Oh, and we need the yellow teeth. There we go. Not bad. Good enough anyway. So let's fold him in, open this up. Let's drop him into the complete folder. Blip, and then blip, and then fog effect, front line, here and here. Don't need that. Let's go here to the background, add all these in. Now let's see, how can this guy fit better? That's a good spot for him. It's been a long time since I've taken a break. So I think I want to take a sip of some water, probably kick some coffee here for a second and sit back before we start in on the next figure. As long as I'm crusading, I'm protecting. I have no qualms about vanquishing evil. Cheers, man. There is no wrong path. The path that you're on is the right place for you to be. We need people doing that. It's important. It's just not me. But I've experienced it enough to understand it, and that's probably all that I needed to do. Because I can articulate it, and I can converse about it and even debate it without taking it personally. I felt it. I know it. All right, so let's see. Let's explore our new adventure here. What's the next one? This guy. You don't have a lot going on here. So what we want to definitely do is make sure we have a dark here at the base so we can have this guy's head stand out. See how I've lined this up so his chest is against the eye socket here? So we have those lines, so we have that contrast going there. So we have contrast here. I'm trying to add these guys in to spots so that like we'll have fog rolling in here so this will lighten up. So like this guy's shoulder, this foreground shoulder here will separate from this guy's background here. So the fog effect that we put on the ground will go a long way. It's like you can see this guy's lightning back here. We might back off that a little bit so that this contrast here stands out more for this guy's shoulder here versus here. So we create these different pockets. So when we finish all of the undead, we'll be able to layer in these foggy fade layers to help create those ranks of separation from each other. So where are we at? Right here. Cool. Excuse me for a second. Let's conceal that and go back to here. Let's get our black back in effect. I definitely need a shot of coffee. What time is it? 8:30. We're doing great here. You know, if I went to sleep at 9:30, I could get up and be on stream by 5:30 or 6 and get more time in, but going to bed that early is kind of lame. I've been resistant to it. I'm just checking my signals here to see if I've got a conversation I'm supposed to have. There was a potential conversation that I was going to have at 9 o'clock that I had to check in here. And nope. Not a problem. I'm really looking forward to working on Bastions more today. That is going to be so much fucking fun. Cool. All right, here's where we're at. Let's get into it. We're getting so far back in the ranks that heads and shoulders are all we really need, and that's good news. We're making good progress. And then we have a whole wall of artifacts that we have to do next. It's 12 artifacts here that we have to detail. We're really kind of setting the pace on levels of detail with this one, aren't we? Yeah, my streams normally don't last long enough for me to be able to get into that sort of philosophical space. Plumber hours. Gets lost in the guy you just finished. This one here. Yeah, like I was just saying, when we finish this, we'll be able to work on the fade effect, like we fade him out. Like if we have like that level of fade in the background, this guy starts to pop out more. And once we have them all together, I can also go back in and add in like bright line highlights. So this is just we gotta detail all the characters proper, and then we can work on the lighting to separate them, like doing like bold highlights and stuff like that. It'll work out. It usually works out, so I'm not concerned. But Francois, as usual, you are on point with that, sir. It is something that is a concern. So we'll be able to get everything. We can change the position. We have these all on separate layers, so we can nudge them around to a position that they need. We can use the fog effect on the back ranks to fade them so they don't stand out as much. So we still have tricks and tools in our belt. If I was a good artist, I probably wouldn't have those problems, and I just understand that was going to be a problem and compose appropriately. But most of the time, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just, like everything else, I just trust it's going to work out. My job is just to push the pixels. So I could probably get done, I could probably do art a lot quicker than I do, but the process that I have is potentially has a lot of redundancies. But, you know, the artwork's just here to support the books. It's the books that I actually care about. That guy looks pretty good. Yeah, or even like a white, like I could have a, like for instance, we could end up adding a secondary highlight, like a secondary source of light over here that shines across this way. So like we would then have like, not to derail too quickly. Like a highlight like that. We might end up doing something like that to have all this stand out. Something like that, like for example. So that might end up being what we end up doing, having that like having the primary light seems to currently be coming from / toward, like towards the camera, like here, projecting out this way. And then if we have a secondary source over here working this way, we'd have both the highlights. We have both. Yeah, I have both highlights hitting here like this, right? But then we could also have highlights hitting over here like this. So that is one of the things that we're working on. But once we have all the corpses built in and we work off of our primary light first and look at the atmospheric fading to separate the ranks from each other, then we can look at the secondary light and just trace the highlighting. Then is easy because all the lighting layers interact and overlap each other. So by building in separate layers like that, it's an extra step, but we work on all these details to get these guys figured out, and then we line them all up, and then we can separate them with the lighting effects. So not to be overly redundant and repeat myself too often, right? But yeah, that's just part of the process. Francois, man, you're really, really good at seeing where the next steps are going. I really like that about you. Hey! I'm gonna keep going. We'll probably go for another 45 minutes. I think 9:30 will be a decent stopping point today. I'll disengage for a little bit, get some offline stuff done, and be back on at 1 o'clock to continue with Bastions, and we'll stick with that until I'm tired of doing it, basically. And then I'll be done for the day, and we'll be back with our normal shift tomorrow, working till 8 o'clock, and then going to JOB, and then logging in for our Tuesday lunch. Wednesday, I will not have a lunch. We're playing D&D. My coworkers are playing D&D with me at lunchtime on Wednesday, so I'll be on for Wednesday morning artwork, and then Thursday morning artwork, Thursday night, we'll continue working on the Bastion system. Friday morning, art. Friday lunch. Maybe Friday morning, maybe we'll start. I'll have the monster manual tomorrow. So in the Martial Powers playtesting, we'll start using the 2024 monsters. So maybe this Friday, will work, or maybe Tuesday and Friday, we'll work on looking at the different types of monsters that have already been in the Martial Powers playtesting: the Undead, the Constructs, the Orcs, the Umber Hulk, Spiders, Dark Mantles. We'll look at how those things have changed and how we may how those might incorporate into the playtesting that we're doing moving forward, and take a look at some potential bads that we're looking at, like the Umber Hulk that the team fought. There was signs that it had a saddle at one point. It didn't have a saddle when the team found it, and it certainly wasn't being ridden by anything, but there was indication that it was saddled and had been a mount for something at some point. So that's a point of interest that the teams may decide to lean into as something that they could be facing at lower levels of the dungeon as they continue to gain levels. I am very much looking forward to where the team is going to be at and what might be going on inside of the mega dungeon by the time the team gets to like 7th, 8th, 9th level. I think we can have a lot of fucking fun. I am very much looking forward to delving that far underground. And while this is the playtest is technically in an undefined campaign world, but I am a huge fan of Kyber as Underdark, as like this mythic evil that dwells underground. It has intense interest in killing any surface dwellers that would probe those spaces. That it recognizes that you don't belong there, and it resents your presence and wants you dead. I like that. I like that motif to the Underdark. And the further underground you get, the less sense it makes. Like that's where Zoriat, like in Eberron, that's where like the aberrations are at, like far enough down beneath the ground that there's no real connection to sane humanity anymore. That it becomes just odd. It becomes unpredictable and Cthulhu-esque. And the DM and each campaign can approach how the terror of Kyber can be depicted in the campaign differently, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it manifests in this campaign as well. Even though it's not technically Eberron, again, I really enjoy that Kyber motif. Let's drop the size on his head a little bit. There. See, hey, look, we just finished the sketch. So that's all the detail that we really needed for this back line. Hey there, clown. So these go quickly, a lot more quickly than the front line, because there's so much less that we have to worry about, right? But we knew we'd get to this point. I've been talking about it for a while. This was where I expected to be at today. So fun. Illustration, painting, it's such a satisfying hobby. Just the act of creating something and just seeing it. I like that I can let go of control, and that I've probably got 15,000 hours worth of artwork experience under my belt at this point. And And so I'm at a place where I don't really have to think about what I'm doing. I just let my fingers do the walking, as it were. And through my muse, I end up arriving at a place where, hey, this stuff looks pretty cool. So I revel in is a meditative experience for me, especially when I'm offline and I don't have to talk. I can just let myself fall through space. There's a lot like that's like that quiet time that the man spaces talk about is so important for the psychology or for the mental health of men. I am no different. I revel and prosper in quiet space and artwork, listening to music, allowing me to reflect on things around me is blessed quiet time that allows me to process a lot of feelings that I have, a lot of philosophy that I feel. And I would not have that opportunity. I don't know how I would have gained that if I didn't get into art. I know that when I was a kid, shoveling shit was a place where I worked out a lot of my rage that I had to shovel shit in the first place, that I didn't gain any direct benefit from doing it, that it was basically indentured servitude through children. I had a lot of time to really hate on all that stuff and let that rage just get tired of being angry inside of me. I think it allowed me to get to a Zen state much more quickly in my life than I probably would have otherwise if I had had more opportunity to... Hold on, something about this guy's skull is pissing me off. Yeah, let's dent his head. I like that. That's fun. Okay, I'm good with that. Yeah, let's see. Nice. Okay, I think I can bind this guy up. Duplicate the group. Merge it, single layer. Let's take a sip of coffee. Thanks, Francois. I certainly love making it, but I love that I can make the art and not have to pay attention to it. It's just fun to be able to just, whatever's inside of me that wants to be said. I'm at a point now that I trust. I used to be afraid that I would say something stupid that would end up causing me trouble because I didn't trust myself. But apparently I've now crossed my 4th year of streaming. Jesus. It's pathetic. It's pathetic how slowly my channel has grown. But at the same time, I can even though I'm not on the other side of it yet, I see the wisdom of how slow my channel grows. That I have not gained any stretch of like fast success. Like that's impossible to say after 4 years of doing this with 500 followers. I'm not explosive growth, which means that with any form of grace, if something eventually pops off and my channel grows momentum, I'm not going to lose myself. I I have grown to where I've grown at by being who I am, acting the way that I do, saying the things that I do, acting the way that I am. And I don't think there's any level of success at this point that would give me reason to deviate away from that. And I think that if I had somehow what I do had been popular, and if I had gained any level of actual growth at any kind of speed, I would be more concerned about how do I'd be afraid of losing that momentum. And I probably would have dedicated myself to making it my job, as opposed to recognizing that this probably shouldn't be anything more than considered like a hobby of some sort. So I've been able to preserve, like maintain my personal integrity of who I am, what I want for myself, how I want to present things. And I think that only comes from the solitude of irrelevance, of being able to build what I am and how I do, and to keep showing up despite whether or not anyone actually shows up or not. I mean, God bless you guys for showing up, but you're only here because you want to be, right? There's absolutely nothing here that beholds anyone to actually showing up and spending time on my channel. But I show up and do it anyway because I use this as an opportunity for me to get the work done. The work has to get done anyway. So if I log in every day and keep pushing the ball down the field, I eventually get past the goal and we move on to the next set, right? That's the glory of slow, steady momentum. You get there, you get the job done. And so as long as I continue to approach this from a state of, I use this as an opportunity for me just to keep a hand on what's going on, to hold myself accountable. If I'm eventually going to do Kickstarters, like one of the biggest complaints about Kickstarters is that the deadline to complete the project was unrealistic, and then the project goes dark for months and then suddenly pops up as completed. It's like, how'd that happen? Where'd that come from? Like, if I were to do Kickstarters, this would be the exact same thing. This would be the exact same process as a Kickstarter project, except that on a Kickstarter project, I will have already been paid to do this. And if I get into a cycle of doing Kickstarters, I might eventually get to a point where I'll be able to fund the next project as it gets onto my plate. So I'll be able to sustain a revenue, like an income for myself independently, by moving through the same process from project to project. But I don't know if I'll ever be successful enough or have enough of a backing to ever reach that momentum. So it's good that I don't rely on it. It doesn't matter, because I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. That also means I don't have to resent that so much of my stuff is on the DMsGuild. It's like, I'm not trying to generate income and make a living out of this. I'm trying to make the things that my heart's inspired to make, knowing that if I'm true enough to myself, that eventually, if it's supposed to be an income, it will be. And there's nothing I can do to stop that, because it's what I'm being walked into. And at the same time, I don't have any expectations of it doing that. It'd be cool. I like thinking about it. Boy, wouldn't it be neat if I could just log on and do artwork like this for 4 or 5 hours in the morning, go off, go run, do gym work, clean my home, and then log on after 4 hours and kick with folks at the end of their day and do game design stuff, and then have time to run like 2 or 3 playtest sessions on a weekly basis, and still have my nights free to spend with family and friends and stuff. Like, what a wonderful work-life balance that would be. But that's not where I'm at yet. So something is not ready for me to have that. Even though I can taste it, I can feel what that's like. Right now, me taking my vacations in May and in the new year, that's sufficient for me to be able to feel that reality and to feel satisfied from it, while also still feeling satisfied and thankful for the day job that I keep. So I think it's really about what do you appreciate, and what makes you feel the most amount of joy and freedom. I think that's where I think that might be what drives people, what makes them feel most free, to be themselves, to allow themselves to be unapologetic about who they are, and what circumstances have to exist for you to have that independence is set by each individual's life path. Like people that are homeless, it might be a dreadful experience for them, but they experience a level of freedom of being where they want to be, doing what they want to do, quote unquote, wanting to do. Even if they hate the experience, they're being allowed the opportunity to hate it. And they're being allowed a timeline of unique circumstances to allow them to explore that space intimately until it's content and it moves on to something new. So that's a very Hindu sort of caste perspective of you're born into the suffering. Who am I to relieve you of that suffering when it's your own path? From a cynical perspective, that kind of is like, well, you're just reinforcing a caste system where the wealthy stay atop and the poor stay below. And the philosophy of that system happens to be, well, the richer you are, the younger your soul is. The less you're capable of enduring suffering. So you need all this societal protection to keep your entity safe as you attempt to navigate this. Like, you haven't been here a lot, so we're going to give you all the tools that you need in easy mode so that you don't burn out and lose your experience here. So we're going to give you a shitload of wealth to make life easy for you because you're a rookie. You need it. These are like bumpers on the, like in the bowling alley when they have those, like you play bumper bowling where you can't get in the gutter, right? They literally can't get in the gutter. Meanwhile, there's other people that are born and stay in the gutter and yet are still getting strikes. How does that work? Well, you couldn't understand it because you're not playing that game. It doesn't make any sense to you. So from one hand, from a cynical perspective, it's like that system is just reinforcing the rich stay rich, right? But what if they're actually, what if at that psychic level, what if they're actually correct? What if that is actually true? You have no reason to resent the wealthy. In fact, you would pity them. And what's happening in our society? People are more and more realizing how trapped really rich people are, especially with like the explosive growth that people get from streaming, and they suddenly are like OF to have like ridiculous amounts of money coming to them for virtually just for the virtue of being young. It's like, how are you supposed to be able to sustain that? And you see people burn out on that a lot. There is now with social media a record level of people peaking with huge amounts of popularity and wealth and then crashing hard when it goes away without them understanding how they got there and how they lost it. I think what this is doing is it's creating a resonance inside of us, is that, you know what? I just need what I need. I don't need a super high score in my bank account for me to feel free and for me to have the ability for me to feel peace in myself. I think America in general is getting to a place where we can tolerate people being at all these different points of understanding inside of themselves. And that we've had so many people cycle through rise and fall of just fabulous wealth and fame that it's like, is the juice worth the squeeze? And if we get to that point, then we're going to have a really big shift in perspective about how important is status and wealth in comparison to personal awareness and the ability to interact and empathize with other people. And if we're moving in towards a UBI environment where everyone makes money anyway, and the only real differentiation between each other is how we perceive and interact with each other, empathy becomes a commodity that isn't easily produced. Where's the guy carrying? Oh, yes, we can do a guy that has his head, that's holding his head above his head. We can do that. And it would be appropriate that he would be on the back line so he can see where he's coming to. I am on board with that. I think that would be a fun idea. So that is absolutely approved. And that's probably going to be somewhere back. Like, we're going to end up seeing something like that back here. It's a silly thing. So too much silliness detracts from the horror motif that we're attempting to project with this. But it has a place. I absolutely love that. So yeah, absolutely interested in incorporating that. What time is it? 9 o'clock. Okay, so I'm going to finish this dude over here, And that'll probably be the last one that we do today. Yeah, we can start knocking these down pretty good. There we go. Yeah, this is going to be okay. This is all going to work out. This is all working out. No, I feel like I should keep the front line in here. For the perspective. Let's go back to black and white. I'm going to take a sip of water. Is there a lag going on? I'll make sure it's there for people that can see it. I like the idea. So yeah, we'll put it in the further back line. Am I still running? Yeah, it still says I'm clicking beats. I haven't looked at the camera for a while. Let's see. Yeah, we're doing good. No. Like that. What's up? The comic portal is skeleton next to him seeing the object. What, we can do that? It's like a skeleton learning how to be a skeleton. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. You mean we can just cut off our arm and just lob it at people and it will still attack them? That's cool. Like, being a lich is like, you get there and it's pretty cool. Like, I don't have to sleep anymore, so I can read all the time. But like, once you realize you can take your eyes out and just set them on the book, and you don't have to blink anymore, it's like, oh, I don't even have to blink. I lose 0 time reading. That's awesome. Like, when you get to a point where you're concerned about the blink time taking away from your ability to study efficiently, that's a really high level of, like, you're operating at a really high level of research. And like, maybe being undead at that point to up your game is the appropriate next step to take. And people just don't appreciate at what level you're operating at. Like, no, you just don't get it. If I don't do this, it's going to take it's going to take 60 years longer for me to finish this research. I need this. It's worth the 7 years detour to become undead like this, so I can get back to work and get it done faster than I was otherwise going to do. You just don't appreciate the process properly. So it's not like they start off with nefarious intent. It's just that the process itself is so nefarious. It generates nefarism. Nefarism? Is that a... What's the verb form of that? Anyway, that's where they get. I think they just don't calculate the risk properly. I mean, how can you? How can you see like 600 years down the road this is going to become a problem when most of the people that you know die after 60? You know, it's like you can't wrap your head around the kind of problems that you're going to face because you're operating at a level that your body wasn't designed to operate at. It's just there's no context. It's hard to take it in. There's not a lot of people that can make themselves immortal like that. So I mean, it's a pretty rare air, and those people are kind of paranoid, so they don't really share their secrets so much. So it's like I wonder if like liches like need a mentor. You know, it's like, hey, how can I get through this? I mean, I recognize I'm losing my humanity. That's not the point. The thing is how can I do this and sustain myself without getting destroyed by some sort of stupid upstart paladin? And like, there has to be some sort of lich support group to help walk through that experience and allow you, like, here's how you need to set up like your immortal lair, and here's some defenders that you can incorporate that doesn't put you on anybody's radar but keeps them away from you in case you do. I think there's that's starting to feel like what was the mummy part of World of Darkness? Isn't there like mummies? Is it like the cursed or something like that? That might be the space that aspect of World of Darkness explores. I really feel like White Wolf missed out on an opportunity to like brand with what is it, Universal Studios, that had like Frankenstein and Wolfman and Dracula, that did all those old horror movies that seem to so naturally connect with the World of Darkness role-playing games. Like I really feel like there was like the Invisible Man could just be Mage the Ascension, that somebody got hit with a nasty paradox, so they got stuck being invisible when they were trying to cast some sort of invisibility magic. They got caught, and now they're dealing with the fallout result of them being caught inside the paradox of invisibility. I feel like that's where World of Darkness is actually at as a role-playing game. It's just Universal Studios role-playing game. But I'm pretty sure there was a Mummy World of Darkness. And that seems like the kind of stuff that they would have to contend with. I read the Interview with a Vampire novels by Anne Rice, and I enjoyed the Vampire Lestat as they went through his background and his aging and like the different type of systems that he had established to be able to support himself through the decades. That was a really fun process. I respect that, like that deconstruction sort of idea of like, you know, what is the actual mentality that goes on with being an immortal undead creature? What do I need to do to make sure that I can sustain myself in society this way? Like, how can I keep my hand like without going full feral, right? Like that was a big issue. It was like sustaining relevance in society, remaining connected to it, and turning people in, like as the generations turned over, turning new vampires so that you could get that perspective, to retain that perspective of what is humanity now? How can I'm 600 years old, I'm losing connection with where the trends of humanity are at. You can see the big picture of it. You understand the human nature better, but you disconnect from how humans are adapting to existence, so you stand out more as unnatural. You lose your humanity, and people feel you easier. It's a problem. It gets you killed. So you have to stay contemporary, and the only way for the vampires to do that is to turn new people that like they would say there's like representatives or like that embody that era the best. And I love that idea that was really brought in by Lestat. That was super cool. I don't know how many of those novels end up being created. I dropped off at some point. Just like I never read like all the Xanth novels. I stopped reading Xanth like around the 18th book. I started to age out of it, and it all started to feel the same. That's also why I got out of anime. Like I can appreciate that there's new anime that people say are good, but I'm kind of burned out on the zero to hero sort of structure that most anime sort of revolves around. And I haven't, other than Spy X Family, I haven't really seen a new approach to anime that hadn't already been beaten to death in the 90s. I guess I have to just to wait for like the sarcastic deconstruction period to end to get back into like the silver age of anime for me to probably really enjoy it again. Which I say as a complete cynic. But there's also the commitment of time. Like nothing kills time like anime. And I don't have time for video games. I barely, like, if I watch a show, I only basically like watch one episode a day or a week, depending on what it is. I hate that streaming services are like largely re-entering that once per week episode to retain engagement and subscribers. But at the same time, my own personal workload appreciates it because I don't have a reason to binge as much. I loved binging shows, but they completely destroyed my weekends. so there is that juxtapose there. And that guy looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Oh wait, I need ribs and shit. We'll finish this guy and we'll be done. And then we'll be back at 1 o'clock to work on Bastions. Tex, what's up? Great books, but after your 15th month, they just start feeling like, yeah. Everything's like that. Anything that runs for too long ends up eating itself. I'm going to be really sad when they stop making Rick and Morty's, but I'm already like wondering where the hell can they take Rick and Morty that it hasn't already pushed itself. How I like Rick and Morty because how much it pushed the envelope, how much it deconstructed stuff, how much fun it was able to poke at the sci-fi genre in general, but it hasn't been able to re-enter that space very well since probably like the 3rd season. And unless this season is like really strong, it feels like it's sustaining itself just through its own merit of its own momentum from past merits. So I will be pleasantly surprised if the next season of Rick and Morty can redefine itself. I don't know how it's going to, which is why I'm not one of the writers. But I also see that there's like the rest of season 3 of Invincible is about to, I guess it's dropping like right about now on Amazon, and I love Invincible. Is such a kick-ass cartoon. That is a great superhero show. And it is doing a great job at escalating itself into new storylines with new stakes. But like once the what do they call it, Viridians? Once the Viridian threat is resolved, I hope that it decides to end itself, because I can't really see them being able to really expand beyond a galaxy-wide threat, which I think is what the MCU problem they had with Thanos. It may have been a good idea for them to set down the Marvel Universe for like a good 7 or 8 years, for them to be able to then come back with a new storyline with new characters, build them up again the exact same way as they did with Iron Man, to build into the Avengers. They could have potentially done that with X-Men, but I think corporate greed prevented us from being able to do that, reading the room and knowing when they needed to set a story down and let it get some breath. They, I think that's what's undoing how amazing Marvel was. They need to know when to sit down and take a breath, you know. Take a victory lap and then wait for the next season. There is no next season with Disney. It's always push, 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 push. And it's killing them. Like when I launch a new campaign, I don't immediately just launch into the next campaign. There's a downtime. We have a breather. You know, we just shoot the shit, play some backgammon or something. Give it an opportunity to breathe until the next thing manifests. Give it a couple weeks, start throwing some ideas together, and then make it a real slow, organic conversation until we're at a place where, okay, great, let's kick it. And then we can start rolling again, or allowing somebody else to take the wheel for a little while like I'm the main DM on our team. So it's like if I need a breather to decompress, it's like, great, that campaign was awesome. How about somebody else step up and run something for like 3 or 4 weeks? Because as a forever DM, it's not that I'm stuck as a DM, it's that I can't stop DMing. I have to DM. I have to run stories. I'm okay with being a player on the side, but if I'm not running a game, I am itching. Like I have to build a world for you to tear apart. Please come here and tear my world apart. I really need you to do that. And unless you catch the DMing, but like people don't understand it until they catch it. You can't understand it until you catch it. But when you catch it, you immediately understand. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a lifer now. There's no way I'm not going to DM. Like once you get the level of freedom and the freedom that you get in allowing the players to decide what's going to happen next, and then just get to a place where you're just responding and reacting, just naturally responding and reacting to what the players do with how the world would respond to it. That's a really fun space to get into. You did all the work to get to a place where you can have that casual that casual relationship with the campaign, that it becomes fun just to show up to see what the team is going to do to fuck things up, because you aren't attached to any of it. It's just an experience that's flowing through you that they get to rage against and that they get to mess around with. It's nothing else is like it. Super unique. There, that feels pretty good. I did not know there are spin-off shows. Like that. Thank you, Simon. Up. Yep. 9:25, almost there. We'll have time to finish this and then, yeah, breaking. That fits pretty nicely. DM is great. I get to mess with the game world even when the game is not in session. Yeah, no kidding. It's a hobby. It's a hobby unto itself. Absolutely. As a player, I only get the time at the table to expect. Yeah. I also don't like how players are under pressure to make decisions, and that this sounds very immature. But you can make the wrong choice. You can fuck up and get your team killed, or get people that you care about in the game killed, or destroy circumstances. I hate that. I hate the pressure of, is this the right choice? Is this round the right action that I'm taking? Is this adventure path that we've chosen the right path to be on? I seriously stress those questions at probably an unrealistic level of anxiety, and it is not healthy for me. So I legitimately don't like making decisions as a player that can get my team killed. I feel like if I make the wrong choice, I'm betraying them, and that feels horrible. So as a DM, I get to relinquish that responsibility of making a bad choice. These are choices that you're making. Okay, go for that. And being okay with them doing that and finding out what happens. It's a very selfish, immature way of approaching the hobby, and I own that fully, and I'm okay with it. It's me being radically sensitive. Basically, what it comes down to is me not wanting to betray my friends by making bad choices. And as a DM, I can never make a bad choice. I can just try to build things that allow my team to respond, and that also allows me to be a very sympathetic, like non-combative DM, because I want my team to succeed, because I want to set up circumstances that they don't have to worry about making the wrong choice or regret the choice that they made, because that's such a primal distaste to me that I can avoid basically projecting that onto my players. And I don't mind making them sweat, and it makes me giggle when they do fret the details, but only because I know, God, I would hate to have to make that choice. Like when horrible choices arise, I would not want to have to be a player right now making that choice. I have no idea what you guys want to do, but whatever it is, that's the direction that the campaign goes, and it's going to be okay because it's the story that you're telling. And I've never gotten reassurances like that as a DM when I was a player. So I was like, I'm really hyper vigilant about that. It's like, dude, this is your story. You guys tell it any way you want. Be brave to do what you want. Just decide whatever it is that you want to do is what you want to do, so that you can commit to it. Like that's like pretty much the only advice I ever give players in like a live campaign. It's like, what do you think about this, Phil? It's like, I think you guys are doing great, and I had no idea this is where we're going to end up at. So I love this. I think it's awesome. Because as a DM, my hot, like you're saying, you get to play it when we're not at the table. Half the hobby of being a DM is considering, what did the team do this week, and what's the natural fallout, like what's the natural consequences of their actions with the other factions and power sources, like the centers of power in the game. How are they going to respond to what the players did? And not being committed to a storyline or a big bad or like an outcome that you want to see happen is like the antithesis of that. It's like, I don't want to have a plan for where this campaign goes. I want to see what naturally occurs, like what naturally manifests from the decisions that the team takes. And it's such a permissive perspective of DMing. I rarely encounter that in other games that I've played in, unless they're like one shots, like you're there for a specific reason, you're running this thing and then it's over. But like elongated, like prolapsed campaigns, it's like, I can't do it. But those are a different type of people. It's I think that's a common feeling from DMs, and I think that's what helps create these forever DMs. But you need forever DMs in the game environment, so that you have somebody that's willing to stick around for years to run these stories that take forever to play through. Like that's vital. So I wear that disdain as a sort of badge. But that's me. What's up? I usually attach an NPC to the party when I want to kill a party member. Let just then kill it off. I want my players to discover their character story more than I want to. Neat. That sounds vicious. Wait, I need that. Come back here. Give me your color. There, that'll do. Like that. A little bit of pepper. Pepper that on in there. Wrong. Over here. There we go. Let's see. Here we go. Good guts. So your players start to draw straws once you have a basic player. Yeah, no kidding, right? Hey, you keep running the play until it doesn't work anymore. Well, once they start to suspect that the NPC is a death knell, then they'll become resistant to them, and then you'll adapt. If it's playing out well and the players are enjoying it, then that is absolutely the right way to do it. The harbinger of death. It's so funny. Let's grab some darker bits here. Nope. Whoa, 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 whoa! Buttons. That's. I use the R button for my smudge tool, and the F button is for full screen. So sometimes I misclick R and I hit F instead, so it causes the screen to blast out like that. But I have WASD, like all the buttons I need to press are within reach of WASD. I've got the A button is for my lasso tool. The W button is my wand tool. The S button, what does S do? S makes things smaller. D makes things bigger. E is the eraser. R is the smudge tool. F is screen. B is brush. V is move. C doesn't do anything. X doesn't do anything. Z is the zoom tool. So basically everything WASD inside of that reach is pretty much everything that I need to do to use all the tools that I need. Otherwise, I can just click on things here on the right, or use my mouse tool to be able to manipulate stuff. So this is all I have to do to make my artwork work. It's very efficient. It also risks carpal tunnel. So I have to pay attention to that. I have to do a lot of like flex exercises, like with muscle stuff, to make sure I keep my forearms healthy, so I don't burn out. I don't burn out the engine, you know, the motor. I don't burn out the motor, so I can keep arting. I felt like I was starting to pick up some arthritis in these fingers, and these middle two here. They feel like a little arthritic. They lock up sometimes. That might become a bigger problem in the future, but this hand is thankfully free of any of that, and this is obviously is my art hand, so I can afford to have fingers lock up on my tool hand, but yeah, my art fingers need to flow. I'm a little concerned about that for the future, so I'm trying to think about like how much nightshade do I eat and stuff like that. Go. This guy's almost done. Almost there. Stay on target. I watched the Wallace and Gromit crime most foul last night. I love Wallace and Gromit. They're really, really fun. There's a ton of heart in those animations. Rich group. Shomp. Everything's bound together now. We can blend. So we're going to blend this guy in, and then we'll be done for the time being. We'll come back at 1 o'clock. Work on the bastions. I am really looking forward to working on bastions today. I just like that I have a large block of time that I can spend to work on it. It's just I like the energy of that. I haven't done long form. Like, it's been months, literally since December, since I've had the opportunity just to work on long form like this. So I'm looking forward to the page layouts being done, so that I can, finish my shift, log on, jump into Photoshop, and then punch out a couple hours worth of artwork every day. And that is when my mental health really just skyrockets, when I have the opportunity to have that empty space to contemplate life so much more. Go like here. So I suspect that means I'm going to have to find a way to change my process, so I have less time spent on page layouts and more time spent in artwork. Because layouts, I don't gain a lot of strength in doing page layouts. Page layouts right now feels like what's preventing me from finishing projects. So And I don't want to outsource that, because so much of what I do revolves around making the artwork fuse with the text on the page. I need to control both of those pieces at the same time. But having said that, again, the process of page layouts, I need that's where my game needs to upgrade next, is being able to get through that process of converting text into page for me to illustrate. And once I don't know how that's going to improve. Again, that's not my job. My job is just to run through the cycle and try to find the joy and experience in what it is that I do, and let it sort itself out as what will happen if that's what's supposed to happen. But it is always our nature to contemplate and wonder where it's going to take us, and to muse and fantasize about what that might be like, even though it might just be something that's distracting us intentionally, so that whatever actually needs to happen isn't blocked. Like, sometimes if you see what's happening, you try to help what's happening occur, and like what you really need to do is just ignore it so that it can cook. Like opening the door to an oven every 5 minutes to look at how a souffle is coming along is a pretty good way to make your souffle deflate, and you'll fuck it up. What you need to do is ignore it. Kind of like with proofing bread. You really need to let that sit and proof. It's like, ignore it, let it stew. It'll be done when it's supposed to be done. Your job is don't fuck with it until it's actually done. And I think a lot of the creative process is like that too. At least my creative process. A lot of passivity. A lot of passive interaction seems to be the way of the fill, doesn't it? I feel more like a gardener than an artist. You know, this would be a good day for me to go. There's a buffet. There's a place called 5-Star Buffet down the street from where I live. And on Sunday in particular, they have some of the best fucking sushi in town. It's actually pretty amazing. Their sushi chefs are just crack out the good stuff during the weekend when they got a lot of people coming through. But during the week, it's mostly like veterans and families that are there. And it's a really chill experience being there. And I enjoy it on my days off. But I suspect I'm just going to grill some chicken here at home for myself and just eat some chicken. But I'm thinking about it. The old 5-Star Buffet. Bring it on home, y'all. There, that feels good. Bar. Almost there. Stay on target. Almost there. What's up? Improving your grip strength will reduce feeling of our... Yeah. Oh, right on, man. That's a good idea. That's a fun one. I haven't thought about that. I bet you do that a lot when you're chasing after fish, right? That's practical. That's really practical. Good idea, man. Thank you. So is it like 10:50? 9:50? 9:45. Okay, we're doing okay. Almost done here. Almost done. There's not much else. I'm almost to the point of whinging on this. Will not need. I can cut this here. There, that feels pretty good. Merge that down, and we'll clean up these innards a little bit. Yeah, burnout setting in. It's time. It's time. Even if I had more time on the clock, this would be time for me to be done because this guy is. I'm starting to feel that burnout. Right, the creativeness, like it's starting to all kind of roll into each other, to the point where I might actually come back and visit this guy next time. But I think he's going to be okay. There we go. And there we go. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Yeah, we'll have to mess around with that. This is feeling pretty good. I'm liking it overall so far. But yeah, we're making progress. So I'm going to hit save here for now. That's it. We're going to go ahead and cut this. I'm going to be back. It's 9:45 now at 10 o'clock. I'll be back in 4 hours to continue working on the Bastion campaign book. So you can keep an eye out for that. If you like it, like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. And I'm done. Back from puppy duties. Yep, that's it. So I'm going to bounce out of here for now, and I'll see you guys. Maybe I'll see some of you guys in 4 hours. Otherwise, I'll be back here tomorrow morning like usual, continuing to bash away at this. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you hanging out with me. See you on the other side. Bye.